Good morning, all. Welcome to another episode of Washing Dirt Prospecting. I'm out on the creek today and you can see the water level has risen. The sun is just coming up, and today I'm going to do a little something different. I had a user request to talk a little bit more about the equipment I use. So for today's episode, what I've decided to do is to bring out my 3 favorite gold pans that I use and kind of demonstrate how they're used, how they're different from one another, and the best case use scenario. So hang on and we'll get things set up and I'll show you how we use these different gold pans. All right. If you find any of this information useful, please consider sharing, liking, subscribing so that you can keep up with any other content that I put out, and it'll help out the channel. So stay tuned and we'll get started. So the first pan that we're going to look at right now is the Gold Claw. They make this pan in a variety of sizes. This is the standard size, and as you can see by the shovel head, it is not a big pan at all. You basically can fit about 1 shovel's worth of material in it. Some people say, well, it's too small to use then. It's simply not true. I find that it actually is a really good pan and it has its uses. The second pan we're going to look at today is a Garrett SuperSlle. A shovel head in comparison, you can see you can fit easily 1 shovelful of material, 2, maybe even 3 shovelfuls of material in it. And it's a very good pan, and you can see in their design that they actually have these riffles on them. The Gold Claw does as well, but how these pans are used is completely different from one to the other. Some similarities, but definitely different in their design and function. And finally, we have the XP Batea pan. You can see this is a very large pan. Shovels in there for scale. Here's my hand. You can see it's a very large pan, and it is quite different from the other pans. It is conical in shape, and it doesn't rely on catch riffles to catch any of the gold. It does have this little inverted nipple or pocket at the bottom, which does help catch the heavies when you're panning. It also has this metal attachment here, which is optional. This is to help break up dirt balls, clay balls that might be in the material as you're shaking it about. This is an optional attachment. I actually kind of like it, but also kind of don't, because it can get in the way sometimes. But anyway, let's get to showing each of these pans and how they're used. So the first pan we're going to look at today is the Garrett SuperSlle. If you look at this pan, it has a flat bottom. It has these ridges inside, and then one side is smooth. The bottom is smooth as well. When you're utilizing this pan, you're going to put your material in it and you're going to shake it and do what's called stratification under the water. When you stratify material, you are basically allowing all the heavies to drop to the bottom and the lighter and sometimes bigger material to come to the top, which then you can slough off by hand or you can wash off. During the process of using this pan, you're going to tilt it forward and keep shaking it, cleaning off the top material. And these riffles here are basically a safety catch. They allow you to basically have an extra measure of safety to catch any heavies so that they don't go off the lip of the pan. This is an excellent pan for starters or beginners because it is more forgiving than other style of pans. It is frankly my go-to pan. It is the pan that I use the most out on the river. That doesn't necessarily mean it is my favorite. It is just the one that, for general utility, I find that it has the most use case scenarios for any kind of gravel that you're going to go out and be digging up. So let's take a look at it and see it in action. Once you have a pan full of stuff, you can see in the classifier there's a whole bunch of different size rocks in there. We utilize the classifier to kick those out because we know there aren't any monster nuggets in this river. There's some pretty good sized flakes, but you want to get all the big stuff out of there so that the gold doesn't have to fight against that larger material to settle to the bottom. Once we have our pan, we'll take it to the river and we'll wash it out. I'm just rotating this classifier to wash all the material. It goes pretty quick. Takes out all the bigger rocks. It goes to the side. And then we're left with the pan of just our finer material. And now we need to shake this about to stratify the material to get the heavies to drop to the bottom. I'll shake it side to side underwater to make sure that the material is fluidized. I'll tilt the pan forward towards those riffles. And if I drain off the water, you can now see larger rocks and material has gone to the top. At the bottom, you'll see the finer material and the black sand is settling at the bottom. We'll then get our material wet again, stratify again, and then we'll dip and lift, and that washes off the top lighter material that we don't want. We'll do that a couple of times, re-stratify, tilt it towards those ripples, and then rinse it off again. We'll continue this until we get just our most concentrated, heavy, small material at the bottom. After a few washes, and it goes pretty quick, especially when you become fairly adept at this, you can see we're not left with a whole lot of material left. Utilizing these catch riffles, we can see that all our heavy material is getting caught in those riffles. Now, I don't need those riffles in order to pan. I'm pretty good at panning, with two hands anyway. But this is definitely a good pan for starters. There's a variety of pans out there that have a similar design. I like the Garrett SuperSlle because of the angle and the depth of the riffles, especially for a starter pan. But anyway, let's see if we have anything in the pan. That section where I was digging wasn't very deep, and there was some concrete underneath it, so I don't know if anything really fell out. But I like the size of the gravel and the cobbles that were falling. So we'll keep shimmying it again to make sure that material is in a fluid state that allows the heavies to drop to the bottom. And we'll rinse off the very last bit until we're left with almost nothing. And you can see that we have very little left in the pan. I do see what appears to be a small, tiny speck of gold already. So we're going to wash back and see what we have. Well, not really seeing a whole lot. Maybe a little wiry piece there. And it looks like one little tiny micro up at the top. Maybe a couple of specks. But today we're not really concentrating on getting the gold. I just want to show you how these pans are used. And it does look like we have two tiny little specks of gold. There's big gold in this creek. I'm just not digging in the right spot, but let me point them out to you. It looks like there is a speck right there, if you can see that. And then there's another little tiny one right there at the tip of my fingernail. It's barely visible. This GoPro might not even be catching it. All right, let's get on to the next pan and I'll show you how that one is used. And when you're in these creeks, it's always a good idea to wear gloves. I like to wear gloves just because the water's dirty. But we also have a little friend here. That is a leech. And there he is moving a little bit. He wants some breakfast, but I'm gonna wear gloves this time. He's not gonna be munching on me. Okay, so we utilized the Garrett SuperSlle. What do I like about this pan? Well, I like the size. You can get a couple of shovelfuls in there easily. I like that, especially for beginners, that it has these catch riffles. I also like that it has this nice drilled hole there that you could put a little carabiner on there to hook up to your other equipment, like your pack or whatever, so when you're moving about, going to an area, you don't have to carry it in hand. This is my overall go-to pan because of its utility, of its size, and the fact that you don't need a lot of water to utilize this pan. Well, it wouldn't be a prospecting video without showing you a little bit of gold, even though my objective today was to basically show you 3 different pans I use. I'll show you some of the gold that I'm capturing. Right down there, you can see some decent flakes, some specks. When I first got into prospecting, I was enamored with all the different tech and gadgets and gizmos, and I really was a sucker for buying a lot of stuff that I really didn't need. One of those I would say would be the Gold Claw pan. It's not a bad pan. It definitely has its place. This is my favorite scouting pan. One, because it's small. It is very efficient and fast at cleaning out. You don't need to classify at all, really, although classification always helps. Again, classification, the removal of the larger, heavier materials that might get in the way of your heavies like gold and lead falling to the bottom of the pan. The way this is used is a little bit different, but it is very fast, it's very efficient, and I like it a lot, except for the size. It's not really what I consider a production pan. You wouldn't want to go out all day and utilize just this pan if you're trying to move a lot of material. However, I think it is an excellent scouting pan, as well as a good cleanup pan for when you're just cleaning up your final concentrates and trying to reveal that gold and get it separate from all the black sand and other heavies. Let's take a look at it. You can see that it also has a variety of ridges and riffles, fairly aggressive. It has these larger ones on this one side, and then it has some finer ones on this side. And then finally, at the bottom lip here, it has some little micro ridges for doing your final cleanup. I like that it has all those different ridge types to actually help catch the small gold. So when using the Gold Claw, it's a little bit different. What you're gonna do is you're gonna fill your pan full of material. The pan needs to be completely submerged underwater, and you're gonna shake it side to side. As you shake it, you're going to be tilting the pan forward towards the large riffles. So as you shake it, you're gently tilting it this way. What that does is it allows the bigger rocks and heavier material to fall out of the pan, but the catch riffles will hopefully catch the heavies you want to keep, which is your gold and gemstones, what have you. Let's see it in use. All right, we have our Gold Claw here, and it is packed full of material. You can see I did not classify this. That is one of the really neat things about this pan is you don't need to classify. Classifying always helps, but this one, and the way it's used, allows all those heavies and those rocks to fall right off. I mean, trapping the smaller heavies, of course, toward the bottom. You have to submerge the pan completely in water. You give it a shake, give it a twist to make sure your material is being washed. And then, as you start shaking back and forth, you'll gently tilt it forward, and all those big rocks fall off. You'll tilt it and keep shaking it till you're at 90 degrees, and then you'll stop, and then you're left with almost nothing. And you got to wash that material on that front lips, kind of shake it, move back towards the other side. And this is where the smaller riffles come into play. Now you have this fine material, and you're going to do the same thing but over the smaller riffles. So you submerge the pan, shake it back and forth, gently tilt it until you're left with almost nothing. You give it a tap to move that stuff to the bottom of the pan, and then we can clean out and see if we got anything. I'll move that bigger rock out of the way. It looks like a piece of lead or something. I'm not sure if we're going to get anything out of here, but again, that's not the point of today. But it's always good to get out regardless and play with the toys. And no, there's nothing in this pan. So as you can see, it basically cleaned up from that big pile of rocks and dirt to nothing in almost no time. That is the beauty of this pan. It is very quick, very efficient. It is excellent for scouting. And I'm just double checking. I do not see even one little speck, but that's okay. I just wanted to show you how the pans are used. Finally, let's say we did have some gold. We have these little micro riffles on this side of the pan here. If I wash the material down to that side, I can take our pan, move it all to that end over those little micro riffles, and you just dip, and you see the black sand just coming off, and the heavier stuff is left behind on those little micro riffles until you're left with pretty much nothing but clean gold, if you happen to find some gold. Again, I like this pan. It's an excellent scouting pan. It's an excellent cleanup pan. It is a little different from the other pan we use, but yeah, it's a good pan. It's just not large enough really for me to use every day when I'm out on the river. But I love putting this in my pack, and if I'm just going to be scouting and looking to locate gold, really good pan. And that's the Gold Claw. And it's made in the USA. All right, so now the last pan we're going to try is what I like to refer to as Big Blue Bertha. It is a big pan. The Batea pan design is conical in shape, no riffles. Traditional Batea pans, they've been in use for over 2,000 years. This particular pan is made by XP, and it's called the XP Batea pan. Has it on the back. I believe, yes, this particular pan is made in France, but this design, again, dates back over 2,000 years. This design is the most used design in the world, and for good reason. It is a very good pan when you have enough water. As you can see, this thing is big, and in order to utilize it to its full potential, you really do need deep water, because you're going to submerge the pan completely. And when you submerge the pan, you're going to be doing a rotation as well as tilting motion. What this does is it causes a vortex of the material. The lighter stuff will be sloughed off the sides. The heavier stuff will concentrate in the center. And then finally, hopefully down in that little nipple down there. Again, this clay bar is optional. I kind of wish I hadn't attached this, and in fact I've been thinking about getting a second Batea pan to not have that installed. When you install this, you actually have to drill some holes so that it'll screw on the back. So it is a permanent installation. Regardless, it's a very good pan. It is actually my favorite pan to use when I have enough water to use it because of its size. You can put a lot of material through this pan. All right, let's get some material in the pan and we'll show you how it's used. All right, we have the Batea pan full of material. That is a lot of material and it's heavy. We even have a friend in there. We got a worm. But I'm going to show you how this pan's used. You put it under water, you shake it around to start classifying, and then when you have it nice and fluid, you start to rotate it in a circle, and it starts washing off some of those heavy materials. I did not classify this, so I got a big rock in here. I did that on purpose to show that you don't need to classify this pan. It helps if you do, to kick out the larger stuff, but you don't need to. And again, by shaking it back and forth, you can see those larger rocks start to come to the top. I can go through, I can scrape those off. And then we continue. Oh, got a big rock here. That's a big one. Shake it to get it fluidized. And then you start rotating, oops, in a circle while tilting it. And this gets the larger material off the top. This too is quite a fast pan once you get used to it. You can see we're already down to half the material that we had. Shake it around, stratify, start to go in a circle. That lighter material starts to wash off. We get rid of some of those larger rocks. We're almost down to where we want it to be. That lighter material, it's all washing off. We can kick out those bigger rocks. Get our material, our concentrates to the bottom. And then what we're going to do is just a little bit of water. We're going to swirl. You can see it makes this tail. That's going to further concentrate the heavies to the bottom. And then when you get that tail, you stop. And then you can rinse off that tail. You're going to repeat that process. Shake it up, swirl. Lighter material is getting washed out. We got a big rock there, and get that out of there. A little bit of water. Swirl like a comet's tail. Oh, need a little bit more water. Stop. Once you get down to low enough, this is the slow part as far as this pan is concerned. You're going to make that tail again. You're going to tilt the pan, and then by hand you're going to start pouring water to rinse off that lighter material. See here, right there, some really pretty garnets. So there's some heavy stuff, some more garnets in the center there. So we are picking up some heavies. I don't know if there's any gold where I pulled this material from, but all our black sand is concentrated in the center. Again, we'll start pouring just a little bit of water to rinse off the lighter material. Let's see if we have anything. A little squeeze bottle would actually help with this process here. I don't want these rocks there, so we'll get rid of those. And we do this very carefully until we get to the bottom. Now, I don't know if there's any gold in here, but there are some pretty red garnets showing up. My goodness. I don't think there's going to be anything in here. Let's see. No. Nope. Well, we did catch one speck of gold. It almost got away. Right at the top there. There's a nice bright speck of gold. Little flake. So we did get some gold. Okay. So that was my take on 3 different pans. My 3 favorite pans: the Gold Claw, the XP Batea pan, and the Garrett SuperSlle. The Garrett SuperSlle is my go-to pan, just because of the size, the utility. It's just the right size, and it has some features on it like the riffles that I like, and you can move a decent amount of material through. The XP pan, the XP Batea pan I should say, is my overall favorite, but you need a lot of water, and you need deep water in order to utilize it fully. And finally, the Gold Claw, good pan, but I like it for scouting. It's simply not large enough as a production pan. Gold Claw does make a larger version of it. I don't have one of those, and in fact, all of these pans that I tested today, they're all bought with my own money. There's no endorsements here, and I'm just giving you my opinion in a short little brief tutorial on how to use them. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a comment if you have any questions, or if you liked the video, you didn't like the video, just leave a little bit of feedback. Comment, share, subscribe if you like, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.